So I've been having a think about right-handed and left-handed because in trampoline, which is my, I guess, main sport, I did loads of sports growing up, but it's the one that I'm still doing. It's the club that I run. It's very symmetrical. However, when I twist left, so I twist my left shoulder and my right arm goes in front of me. That's the way I twist. And in judo, you've got a right hand or a left hand sort of dominant throw, so you're either grabbing the chest, the lapel with the left hand, or grabbing it with the right hand. Now, during my first three sessions, I did it with both hands. I did it with the right hand and then pulled, and did it with left hand and pulled, and tried to feel out which one felt more fluid. I don't like the word natural because I don't think it's natural to be going left or right. It's just more fluid because I'm more familiar going which way or the other. And I was expecting to go left because that's the way I twist in trampoline. But when I was doing it, I actually felt that there wasn't really much of a difference with a lot of the smaller, easier throws. Like when you're turning to the left or you're turning to the right, it didn't feel one way was more fluid or not. It was only when I had to rely on a bit more strength or coordination with my hand and my wrist, being right-handed, that it felt more fluid going left. Now, I also think it's to do with the fact that my right leg is my kicking leg. I play football, and so I was kicking with my right leg. And whenever you do a sweep or a back heel, again, it's right leg. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I should just go right-handed, the same as everyone else. However, when I was trying in the last session, I don't think I mentioned this before. I was again trying to do it both hands, and one of the throws just made more sense to hold it with my left hand, then pull and go over. Again, don't know the name of these things yet. And it feels, again, I feel more in control when I'm pulling the sleeve of my right hand rather than pulling the sleeve with my left hand. But then I have more control when it's in the lapel. And so I was going back and forth trying to work out which way I should try to be. When I spoke with a boxing coach before, they were saying, I think it was like southpaw and something else, I can't remember. And basically that's left-handed or right-handed. And I haven't decided, and I don't think I'm going to decide whether I'm left-handed or right-handed when I'm I guess fighting in judo. But what I do want to try and do is build up the coordination and some of the fluidity on my left side before I go to judo next, so that when I start doing some of the more complex throws, the ones that require a bit more communication and coordination between my arm and my leg and moving and twisting, I think that's going to be interesting to see, especially because then I would need to rely on my right leg rather than my left leg to balance. So it would be interesting to see how that translates into some of the sweeps and throws, because my left leg, being the standing leg in football, is, I would imagine, stronger. But my right leg is more coordinated in sweeping through, etc. However, when you're doing a lot of the kicks and things inside of judo, the left leg, ideally, you'd want to be stable and strong so you can fight the other person with that leg. So if your knees are locked, you want to be able to pull essentially backwards more than they can pull backwards. Yes, there's lots of balance and coordination with the arms and the body as well. But this is what I'm thinking through. And so what I've sort of mentally given myself is this challenge to try and do things more with my left hand, to try and grab some or essentially train my left side of the body to be a bit more fluid rather than stiff or rigid. In ecological dynamics and various elements of coaching science, there's degrees of freedom problem from Bernstein. It's not just in EcoD, it is in other more traditional forms of coaching. And essentially the degrees of freedom suggests that when you're new, beginning, you're trying something that is different, you try to reduce the degrees of freedom to simplify what it is that you can move. So you become very rigid and you can only do a couple of things. However, those that have more expertise, more familiarity with the movements are far less rigid. So there is more opportunities for movement because I can move my wrist in various ways, On the left side, I think partly that part of the struggle with some of the more complex lifts was because I was reducing my degrees of freedom in my left side, because my elbow and my shoulder, the left side of my body is not used to being that fluid, because most of the time when I'm using it, it's to stand up playing football, or it's to balance whilst I'm doing something else on the other side with whatever it is. And so what I'm doing in just everyday moving, like I've just come back from shopping, I grab the shopping with my left hand rather than my right hand. Small things like that to see if I can add some fluidity, similar with steering. Normally, I would be like my main hand is the right hand, so I'm driving this side around the wheel, and then my left hand is supporting. So what I try to do is make the left hand main, right hand supporting. Granted, it was hard because obviously left hand, or in the UK anyway, left hand is where the gear stick is. So every time I had to change gear, I'd swap, then come back. But it's adding those small little things to see how my left hand, my left side manages and adapts to movement in and around everyday life, and then seeing if I can transfer that into judo. Something else which I also found interesting because I was exploring, I've been watching quite a few randoris and fights in the Olympics, and what I've noticed, and I double checked this as well because it seemed rather odd, is that the Japanese are very good at judo, if you're unaware. And most of the Japanese that I could see fighting were fighting left-handed. And it was a disproportionate amount of left-handed fighters, and I was really confused. So what I did is I had a look at the team event, the France versus Japan team event, and it was like, I think there were 4 left-handed Japanese, 1 right-handed Japanese, and all the French were right-handed. Then I looked at other matches. Most of the Japanese that I saw were left-handed. Then I watched a 1 versus 10, and the person wasn't left-handed, but the one that was fighting the 10 was left-handed. And 1 out of the 10 were left-handed, everyone else was right-handed. And the one that was, the 1 against the 10 was the better fighter, and they actually won the matches. But it got me thinking, okay, maybe there is a tactical advantage for there being a left-handed fighter, for you being a left-handed fighter, because most people are right-handed. And because I'm at the start, I can essentially develop either way. If I can develop both ways, or potentially left first, I would then have more experience going left to right, because most people are right-handed, than the right-handed person would be going against a left person. Now, in other sports like tennis and football, you can see lots of examples where left-footed or left-handed or left-dominant players are high up there. You look at Nadal in tennis, or you look at Messi in football, like they're left-handed, left-footed, and I feel like there is an element of tactical advantage when it comes to martial arts and it being left-handed. If I have this experience fighting, if I'm always left-handed, always going the same direction against a right-handed player, I might have, say there's 10 people, I'm fighting 10 different people that are right-handed. They're fighting me, they're fighting 1 out of 10 that is left-handed. So I feel like there's a potential tactical advantage. Where it becomes a disadvantage is obviously coordination, and then natural, I don't like that. I would say the experience of me being right-handed, hence the changes of daily activity, the natural right-handedness of the way that I move. But if I adjust the way that I'm moving around, and I can adapt to be more left side dominant, or maybe less asymmetrical in my everyday moving, then maybe I can transfer that into judo and become a left side dominant fighter with the opportunity to use right side throws, because I can still use the right side elements. The same with any elite judoka, I think I said that right. They can go both ways, but they are normally dominant in one side. So I have a feeling I'm going to try and do some left-sided work and left-sided throws in the next session, which will be in 4 days, or 4 days while I'm recording this, or from recording this. But yeah, that is what I'm currently thinking about. Whether it'll work or not, I don't know. Obviously, we'll have to see what happens. But yeah, so I'm going to test out being left-handed for a bit.